Hello, it's a lovely good evening and welcome to Camnet TV Main News. To present, my name is Jeffrey Ziambo. Top stories in the news tonight. MASAITI district women call for inclusive development. 2 male children of NAKATINDI found dead in an unclear circumstance. Parliamentary Accounts Committee Chairperson MWAMBAZI asked to recuse himself. In international news, Malian army says dozens of its soldiers killed in jihadist attack. And in sports news, NKANDU warns the public from vandalizing the 5 FIFA-funded rehabilitated stadia.
We still need more players, yes, because we need to balance the team. We need to have maybe on one position 3 or 4 players.
The third Camnet Stars football trial is on. This time, Camnet Stars are looking for young, talented and skilled soccer players between the age of 18 and 20 years old. Start your lucrative football career in Europe this July. If you know you are one of Zambia's best gifted soccer players, don't waste your time. On Sunday, the 13th March 2022, there will be trials for professional soccer stars. Venue, Kablonga Boys Secondary School grounds. Time, registration 13 hours. Kick-off 14 hours. 100 kwacha non-refundable shall be paid and your birth records must be produced upon registration. Camnet Stars, setting football standards for international market.
Hello once again, another news in detail. Stakeholders have called on President Hakainde Hichilema to give a message of assurance and hope to the Zambian people amidst happenings in the country such as suicides, accidents and a high divorce rate. In an interview, Chikondi Foundation President Bishop John Mambo notes that the recent weeks have seen an increase in such happenings, which he says brings uncertainty and fear among Zambian citizens. The head of state is expected to address Parliament on the application of national values and principles on Friday, the 11th of March 2022. More in this report.
Zambia was declared a Christian nation in 1991 and has since then maintained its status as one of the few countries officially declared as Christian nations in the world. In this vein, the country has been expected to follow certain moral guidelines as guided by biblical requirements. Happenings in the country like high levels of alcohol abuse, however, have raised concern among concerned parties who say this is lessening productivity. With the absence of a ministry mandated to look on religious affairs, clergymen and women in the country have been expressing fears of moral decay. In this regard, anticipations among concerned parties are high, as President Hakainde Hichilema is dated to address Parliament on national values and principles on Friday, 11th March 2022. In an interview, a clergyman, Bishop John Mambo, who is also Chikondi Foundation President, has called on the head of state to also speak on the high number of...
First and foremost, the prayer must, the nation must be put on national alert, that we must pray for the dark cloud that is moving over Zambia in terms of the many accidents that has taken a lot of lives, buses and all that. And people will be negative about it, but we will ask God, He will redeem us and forgive us. The other thing is you have too many suicide happening. You find someone, because he can't pay his debt and all that, he can't negotiate, they come and grab his property, this person, hang himself. So that's another thing. The other thing is too much bad propaganda on a government that just, assumed office. It's like Zambia is divided. Let this country be united. Let God Almighty bring about healing into our nation. Let's open a new page, forget about the past. Elections are over now, and all we need is to development. And also it's important that he's addressing, a number of issues that are directed to us. What is the most important so far is Zambia needs to love each other. Things are hard, they're getting harder, not just to those that are employed, even unemployed and so forth. The expectation from the youth who voted in numbers is quite high, and so forth.
Meanwhile, Movement for Promoting National Values and Principles Chairman Mr. Joseph Kunda says currently alcoholism, prostitution and divorce are on the rise, and these need to be addressed.
It's a big problem in our country because it brings in complacency, it brings in naivety, it takes away industriousness, the hard working that is needed from our people. And it's almost impossible for the country to record sustainable development and economic achievements if our people could always be engulfed in abuse of alcohol. So that is quite an important part as well. So looking at the head of state, who has demonstrated good faculties in displaying a fine example in morality, I'm foreseeing a situation where we should record decrease in the number of divorce cases taking place in the country.
Citizens have been advised to follow the address keenly as the head of state gives guidance on the path that the country should take regarding national values and principles. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Women of MASAITI district on the Copperbelt province have expressed fear of not benefiting from the national cake through the revised Constituency Development Fund, CDF. In an interview, Alice Kisimba notes that while they appreciate the free education policy introduced by government in the 2022 national budget, women too need to be empowered amidst fears of not being fairly represented. Ms. Kisimba says the area has many women who find it a challenge to seek medical health, access to water and other money-making ventures. Others spoken to whose houses have been submerged in water say the situation is worse during the rainy season due to the bad road network. More in this report.
Bad road network resulting in floods sweeping away unstable infrastructure, no health facilities, schools or social amenities is a daily reminder of the difference between rural and urban areas. Life is generally different in rural areas, something that shouldn't exist owing to the fact that national leadership talks of inclusive development. These are the cries of rural women spoken to in MASAITI district, Copperbelt province, whose hope for a better tomorrow was placed on the ballot in 2021. 6 months down the line, they are growing impatient as they feel not much will be realized when the promises made by government again this time.
Vale sana tu abalokulomba fertilizer tailemoneka ulefu fertilizer wale tupera na ikwewa na mayo kule limefya londoka na ngunji mukote ngana alima tu lima but fertilizer bampere alinga kutina kwata kulia ndani.
One medical facility put up through a community initiative and corporate social responsibility from companies operating in the area has no medicines or manpower to tend to the health needs of the people. But MASAITI District Commissioner was at hand to calm the situation, giving the women hope that the Constituency Development Fund has a component of empowering women.
Empowerment, youth empowerment, women empowerment. Bastata, ita babashimbwirire pakuti bastata kunumoko. Kandi babapele finti vya cooperative balu kukulaini bawonfya makosa. Manomeza kuna muri women empowerment. Mulina bastata. Chikulu makosa bate aledi bana kashi. Bat treasure bana kashi. Nangati pakati bangapwa bala kumepape chebo. Ukwe bati pependala mishinganyanga mina kashirubai. Mano indala misho shikoswa pepe. CDF yaisa. Umono rubadiru wa CDF balemle pati women empowerment. Youth empowerment. Mashimanejo nefi ama school. Koti ni ma women empowerment.
Whether the government officer managed to convince the women is a story for another day. Sharon Kalimbola, Camnet News.
Lundazi District United Party for National Development Vice Chairperson Administration Blessing Banda has asked government when Lundazi District is going to receive adequate drugs in health facilities to promote universal health care for all. Speaking in an exclusive interview, Mr. Banda has noted with sadness that a lot of health facilities in Lundazi District have no drugs. Hence, he has called on government to put up measures to promote quality health care and improve the welfare of people in Lundazi. Mr. Banda adds that it is unfortunate that Lundazi District has health facilities without toilets, and he has further appealed to the Republican president to ensure consulting people on the ground and assure the people of Lundazi when the medical drugs will be readily available in health facilities.
Quality health in Lundazi is not there. We are going to lose people. New Dawn government, my government, can we pull up our socks? We fought, we removed the PF government from power. We wanted to improve the welfare of the people in Lundazi. May I be on record, surely the women who are in the mortuary, which is called the Chivanda Ward or the mother's shelter, the waiting shelter, have nowhere to go for toilet. There are no facilities for toilet, not even a pit latrine. They are defecating in the banks of Musuzi River. And the Musuzi River, the waters feeds Lundazi Dam. And Lundazi Dam feeds all the people in Lundazi. Where is our health? When a truck on the copper belt with the gas plunges in the river, you are able even to announce, no, don't drink such water. The Environment Consumer Protection, where are you? Can you come and inspect Lundazi hospital, the so-called Chintuta hospital, if it is really conducive to be opened as a hospital? Where's the health of people of Lundazi? If cholera is to come, all the people of Lundazi will be affected. Gentlemen, we fought battles. We went to campaign what we wanted. Even if we say it is 7 months, but there are some things which you can work on. There are some things which you can work on. President Bwana Hakainde Hichilema, can you take a trouble to visit Lundazi district and see what is happening?
National Restoration Party NAREP Deputy Secretary General Martin Mulenga has demanded that the Parliamentary Accounts Committee Chairperson Warren MWAMBAZI steps down on moral grounds. In an interview, Mr. Mulenga notes that Mr. MWAMBAZI was cited as one of the beneficiaries through his companies benefited from the alleged misappropriation of funds at the Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit, DMMU. Mr. Mulenga says the revelation by PAC over alleged corrupt practices in public institutions should not end on mentioning the figures, but that the law enforcement agencies should come in and arrest the culprits. Earlier this week, the Parliamentary Accounts Committee was reviewing the DMMU, in which it was revealed that money was misused by inflating figures on some of the purchases made, such as face masks, among other personal protective equipment in the fight against COVID-19. The African Parliamentarians Network Against Corruption, APNAC Zambia chapter, also asked MWAMBAZI to recuse himself from hearing the matter involving the DMMU.
We've seen that in one of the tabloids that the chairperson of the Public Accounts Committee, Honorable Chisha MWAMBAZI, has been mentioned having gotten 3 contracts worth 14 million. So for the sake of the Public Accounts Committee, we are asking of him to stand down from this committee to pave way such that his name can be cleared, because it would be very difficult for him to chair meetings, whereas his name is being mentioned to be one of those companies. The name of the company is called MALIAN, where he's said to have gotten 3 contracts worth 14 million kwacha. So we are calling upon him on moral grounds, probably to pave way so that he can explain himself, and probably if once he exonerates himself and it is found out that really whatever dealings that he could have had with those institutions was clean, then and just after then can we see him go back and start chairing those meetings. But for now, we feel it is prudent, it's not prudent of him to continue rather chairing those meetings. At the same time, we don't want this Public Accounts Committee to just be a show, like a talk show where things are just being talked about. 50 million, 14 million, 30, 100 and something million was spent on this. The action must be taken by these wings of government.
Political activist Dante Saunders says Zambia is currently over 20 years behind in economic development due to regressions caused by acts of corruption in some previous administrations. In an interview, Mr. Saunders alleges that some economic progress made in regimes like the Movement for Multi-Party Democracy (MMD) were undone by mismanagement of funds under the Patriotic Front administration, as indicated in reports such as the Financial Intelligence Center FIC report. The political activist said this in response to recent assertions from the opposition Patriots for Economic Progress (PEP) that indicators in the country do not point to the ruling United Party for National Development (UPND) bettering the lives of Zambians.
The 12th August 2021 general elections saw Zambia's main opposition United Party for National Development (UPND) scooping the presidential seat with a margin of over 1 million votes, an incident which historians termed as the widest margin since Zambia's independence. Prominent among the promises that the new administration made were to lower the cost of living, create employment opportunities, and bring inclusive development to all parts of the country. The new administration, however, has been criticized by political players like the former ruling Patriotic Front and the Patriots for Economic Progress (PEP), who allege that the current economic situation, which has seen an increment in fuel prices, does not point towards bettering the people's livelihoods. A political activist, Mr. Dante Saunders, alleges that the new administration took over office at a time when the country's economy was eroded by corruption, hence change can only come gradually.
So he wants to start to rebuild this country economically and socially, including politically. And that's not going to be an easy task, because you have to start from scratch. You have to start from somewhere. You have to firstly get rid of corruption in the system. And how do you get rid of corruption? You have to move in to ensure that you clean the system, that it starts from the civil service. I mean, we all know what happens when even somebody wants a simple thing like a reg card. That person has to pay somebody some money to put them in the front of a queue and things like that. That's all corruption. So we are dealing with a situation now here, today in Zambia, where corruption is at its highest. And we have to do something about putting corruption out. Otherwise, this country, we are doomed to fail. Everything is going to fail.
He further says as one way of strengthening the development agenda, the constitution should be reformed to see various changes.
Whereby if you put a councillor in or a member of parliament into office, if those people seem to be failing in their duties, either than filling in their own pockets, we as a people must have a right to remove them from office. After all, when a president doesn't seem to be delivering, the president can be removed in parliament. So if a whole president can be removed from parliament, why can't the people have the power to remove a constituency MP or to remove a councillor who's not doing his work? Because there's obviously big breakups, you know, from the president's office all the way to the MP, from the MP all the way down to the councillor. There seem to be things are not working like they're supposed to be working.
The UPND administration has been challenged by various political players to indicate how it plans to actualize each of its campaign promise during its 5-year mandate. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
The Civil Society for Scaling Up Nutrition, CSO-SAN, has urged the United Party for National Development, UPND, to show commitment towards nutrition financing, stating that various donors have started withdrawing their support due to non-commitment from previous administrations towards the cause. In an interview, CSO-SAN country coordinator Mr. Matthew Zemuhuru says about 60 districts out of the 116 in the country currently have no nutrition programs, adding that the withdrawal of major UN agencies towards some nutrition programs in the country is a huge blow. Stakeholders in the nutrition sector have been expressing that although the country is signatory to the 2030 development goals, which aim at ending poverty and hunger, current policies pointing to the achievement of the same are weak.
It's also just to address how, government will show commitment to addressing the high rates of malnutrition, because nutrition financing has been heavily donor financed. So 90% of the nutrition programming has been financed by donors, and we would expect government to show the confidence in the donors by, also just allocating enough resources to nutrition. So failure to do so, we've already started seeing a number of donors, including the USAID that have cut their funding. We've seen FCDO that have cut their funding. We've seen other UN agencies that have pulled out from programs, including the school feeding program. So all of these might be a huge burden on government if at all government does not really show leadership and just work with operating partners to ensure that they are allocating enough resources to nutrition. So already over 60 districts have no nutrition programs, and this will be a very big blow if at all we don't really take this seriously.
2 male children of Nakatindi compound in Sesheke district of Western Province have been found dead in an old runner Toyota Ipsum after they went missing for the whole day. The two are Oscar Kalubi, aged 4, and Emmanuel Njamba, aged 5, both of Nakatindi compound in Sesheke district. Western Province Acting Police Commanding Officer Fambo Siame has confirmed the incidents to Zanis, saying police have since launched investigations to ascertain the cause of the death. Mr. Siame said preliminary findings are that the children, who were 4, went to play in a premises which had parked vehicles and decided to get into the cars to play. He said the 2 deceased children got in a car whose windows were closed, while the other 2 younger children entered in the other one whose windows were opened. Mr. Siame explained that the duo had gone missing on Thursday together with the other 2 girl children of almost the same age. The situation prompted the parents and some concerned residents of Nakatindi compound to start looking for the 4 children the whole day, but in vain. Mr. Siame stated that the 2 boys were just found dead in the early hours of yesterday at around 05 hours after the community saw the 2 girls who went missing returning in an exhaustive state and directed them to the premises where the cars were parked. Mr. Siame said it was after the community discovered the bodies that they reported the matter to the police, who later picked the 2 bodies of the boys and deposited them at Yeta District Hospital mortuary as preliminary investigations on the unclear circumstance in which the 2 boys have died are underway. This is Camnet TV Main News. We'll take a break. We'll be back with more news after the break.
We welcome you to the wonderful world of Savenda Electronics.
At Savenda Electronics, we pride ourselves in manufacturing high-quality electricity and water meters.
Boasting of the first of its kind state-of-the-art manufacturing plant in Zambia, Savenda Electronics manufactures customized smart electricity and water meters of international standards for both the local and international water and electricity utility companies. Our highly computerized factory, run by qualified staff, makes, calibrates, and electronically tests the smart meters to ensure only those meeting customer specifications are delivered to the market. Some of the main features which come with our meters includes notifications about low units, tempering, low battery, and many more customized features. Savenda Electronics provides on and off-site after-sales service and has favorable contract terms for water and electricity utility companies. Savenda Electronics, the real deal.
Your skin is the biggest muscle in your body. That's why we make sure that Oracle is #1 when it comes to taking care of your precious skin. Oracle Pure Petroleum Jelly and Glycerin soothes, moisturizes, and keeps your skin perfect. Oracle Pure Petroleum products for that perfect skin.
We still need more players, yes, because we need to balance the team. We need to have maybe on one position 3 or 4 players.
The third Camnet Stars football trial is on. This time, Camnet Stars are looking for young, talented and skilled soccer players between the age of 18 and 20 years old. Start your lucrative football career in Europe this July. If you know you are one of Zambia's best gifted soccer players, don't waste your time. On Sunday, the 13th March 2022, there will be trials for professional soccer stars. Venue, Kablonga Boys Secondary School grounds. Time, registration 13 hours. Kick-off 14 hours. 100 kwacha non-refundable shall be paid and your birth records must be produced upon registration. Camnet Stars, setting football standards for international market.
Welcome back. We'll continue with the news. School head teacher of Charity Community School in Patamatu Township of Luansha District is appealing for well-wishers to come on board and help in completing the community initiative of building classroom structures for grade 1s to 7, including an ablution block. The head teacher, Mr. Joshua Robert, says the school, which has 175 pupils, has been using rented buildings with funding from community members, but states that the same is not sustainable. Among the challenges affecting the education sector are long distances to schools in some areas and limited school places, necessitating community members to come up with initiatives of community schools.
Currently, the school is operating with 175 pupils from G1, grade 1 to 7, with an ECE class. Challenges. First of all, we want to be a boarding school, and we lack a place to operate from. We have been operating in rented places, building for 18 years. Number 2, we need building materials at the moment, such as cement, roofing sheets, and some blocks. We require school requisites, such as uniforms and stationaries. We require foodstuffs. We require foodstuffs for the feeding program. In a nutshell, that's our current, those are our current challenges. And we appeal to well-wishers, individual, men and women with a heart, the corporate world practicing social responsibility.
Sanitation concerns are still high despite various projects to address the challenges. The 2022 national budget saw 2.4 billion kwacha being allocated for the sector countrywide, while some rural areas in the country still lack basic connections to clean water sources.
What is important in order for us to attain the goals, sustainable development goals, as well as the vision 2030, what is important now is to mobilize resources. And so as a utility, obviously we are working with the Ministry of Water Development and Sanitation, and also we are engaging through the government, cooperating partners, to see how they can support projects to improve water supply in the city of Lusaka. So I think you know that investing in water infrastructure is capital intensive, and therefore it means that we really need to mobilize resources.
First Lady Mutinta Hichilema has urged women to heed this year's theme of International Women's Day and actualize what it stands for. She says the Women's Day theme, which is gender equality today for a sustainable tomorrow, should be used to break down the gender barriers and make gains in the fight against gender inequality. The First Lady says the world still has gender barriers that prevent women from attaining the much-needed progress. Mrs. Hichilema was at the Women Gala organized by APSA Friday evening.
United Nations International Women's Day global theme is gender equality today for a sustainable tomorrow. This theme, which is driven by a campaign #Break the Bias, aims at challenging all of us to imagine a world free of bias, stereotypes, and discrimination. A world that is diverse, equitable, and inclusive. As we commemorate this important occasion, I urge you to take heed of this theme and actualize what it stands for. The theme should not just be a slogan that will soon be forgotten, but rather it should galvanize us all to do what we can to break down gender permanently. I therefore wish to commend APSA for creating this important platform where we can celebrate and support one another so that together we can continue to break glass ceilings, because the world has invisible barriers that still prevent women from rising to the top.
Burial for the late Chief Chibesakunda of the Visa people of Shiwangandu in Muchinga province, who died last year on January 30, 2021 after an illness, is set to take place this month in March 2022. Acting Chief Chibesakunda Ronald Chiwala Chibesakunda has told the Zambia News and Information Services ZANIS at Mutambe Hills this morning that all is set to put to rest the late chief, whose birth names are Bob Wembia Chibesakunda. Mr. Chibesakunda said burial of the late chief will take place this month at the sacred burial place, and attendance will only be restricted to close relatives and traditionalists of the Mutambe royal establishment. He said arrangements to select a new chief will be done soon after burial of the late chief in accordance with the Visa tradition. And the acting chief has dispelled media reports that the Mutambe royal establishment and the entire Mutambe chiefdom is embroiled in succession wrangles. Mr. Chibesakunda said, contrary to the media reports that there are succession wrangles in Mutambe chiefdom, all is going on smoothly and according to the plan put in place by the royal establishment to mourn the late chief for 1 year, and after burial, the process of selecting a new chief begins. He said the Mutambe royal establishment will ensure that procedure is followed in selecting a successor to the late Chief Chibesakunda, who stayed on the throne for 18 years. This is Camnet TV News. We'll take another break. We'll be back with international and sports news.
Team, the trajectory of the business looks very positive, and it looks like we'll be able to launch the ministry.
There's so much data.
Mom?
Yes, baby?
It says here
Global warming and climate change is caused by the pollution from careless activities of human beings.
Wow! Son, do you know I can turn my phone into a TV remote?
How's that possible?
It's so easy. Check this out.
Be smart, be fast with mega data from Zamtel. Get your 15 GB mobile data for only 100 kwacha, 30 GB mobile data for only 200 kwacha, and your 70 GB LTE data bundle with free Netflix, YouTube, Facebook, and WhatsApp. Visit our Facebook page, website, or service centers countrywide for more information. Zamtel, your digital lifestyle partner.
You know I can take her a bit.
Yes, my dear.
I was thinking of getting you a Bugatti on your birthday.
Really?
I'm quiet. My name is Yana.
Don't worry, my dear. That's why there is insurance.
Insurance?
You heard me.
Not just any kind of insurance, but Savenda General Insurance, a company that offers superior customer service, highly professional and dedicated staff. We are not just any insurance company, but an insurance company that actually pays our claims. We cover, among others, fire, marine, aviation, engineering, agriculture, motor vehicle, and miscellaneous insurance. So, live life to the full, knowing that Savenda General Insurance has got you covered. Savenda General Insurance. Insurance excellence.
Camnet TV is becoming big and better. You can now watch Camnet TV wherever you are around the world, simply by downloading the Camnet TV app. With Camnet TV app, you only use less bundles. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
In international news, a jihadist attack on a military camp in central Mali on Friday killed 27 soldiers and 47 terrorists were neutralized, the country's army said. The fighting left 33 soldiers injured, 21 seriously, and 7 are missing, the army added in a statement, while 23 other suspects were neutralized later in the day. The West African state has been battling jihadist movements affiliated with Al-Qaeda, and the Islamic State group for almost a decade, with around 2/3 of its territory outside state control. A French military source speaking on condition of anonymity said hundreds of jihadists attacked the camp of around 150 soldiers close to 06 hours GMT, putting the death toll between 40 and 50. For more in international news, here's a roundup.
The Malian army says a jihadist attack on a military camp in the country's central region on Friday killed 27 soldiers and 47 terrorists were neutralized. The fighting, the army said, left 33 soldiers injured, while 7 remained missing. But a French military source said hundreds of jihadists attacked the camp of around 150 soldiers, putting the death toll between 40 and 50. The Mondoro base is near Mali's border with Burkina Faso and has previously been targeted by jihadists fighting the Malian state and foreign forces. Mali's army is reported to have not requested support from France's Barkhane military operation because the camp was where Barkhane was asked not to operate. Friday's attack comes as the military landscape in the Sahel shifts following France's decision to withdraw from Mali and the arrival of Russian instructors, which the West says are Wagner mercenaries. Diplomatic relations between Bamako's military junta and Paris have deteriorated in recent months as West Africa's regional bloc imposed harsh sanctions on the Malian government's delay to return to civilian rule. More than 1,000 illegal immigrants tried to cross the triple fence, bristling with barbed wire, in the Spanish enclave of Melilla, the land border with the European Union, in northeast Morocco on Friday. The tiny enclave of Melilla, like Ceuta, nearly 400 kilometers to the west, is Europe's only land border with Africa. A young Sudanese man had earlier on Wednesday tried to cross the forced passage in the Spanish enclave. 22-year-old Majud Abdullah, who fled the war in Darfur despite an injury to his leg, says he is ready to try the crossing again. But for now, he plans to leave the Moroccan border town of Nador in search of odd jobs. Between Wednesday and Friday, more than 800 illegal migrants managed to enter Melilla, compared with 1,092 in the whole of 2021, according to Spanish authorities. Several migrants say that the attempts have been met with violence by Moroccan and Spanish law enforcement agencies.
Police in Malawi have used tear gas to disperse hundreds of protesters that marched on the streets of the capital, Lilongwe, against corruption in government. The demonstrators were led by a group called Citizens Against Impunity and Corruption. The protesters pelted the district council's offices with stones, prompting the police response.
It was a deliberate ploy to fire tear gas in order to scatter the crowd.
The march was initially planned for March the 2nd, but the permission was later withdrawn by the district council. Speaking on behalf of the protesters, the organizer of the march left a word of warning to the district commissioner.
We want to say to him, don't be on the wrong side of the equation. Our concerns here are bigger. They concern everybody, all the Malawians, people in the villages, even the police officers themselves who are fighting the tear gas. They are affected by the issue that we are raising here.
The organizers promised more demonstrations against individuals and institutions involved in corruption across the country.
Let's now have some sports news. And now in sports news, in a roundup of Week 26 MTN Super League results, Nkwazi Football Club played out to a 2-2 draw in a Lusaka derby against the Lusaka Dynamos at Nkoloma Stadium in the early kickoff. At the same venue, log leaders Red Arrows Football Club opened up a 5-point gap at the top of the league with a 3-1 victory over Buildcon, who were hoping to get into the top 4 with victory. Zesco United Football Club moved to second place, and Green Eagles played out to a goalless draw against Indeni Football Club away in Ndola to drop to third place on the table. 13 times champions Nkana Football Club got back to winning ways with a 2-0 victory over Kafue Celtic. Kawe Warriors played out to a 1-0 draw against Forest Rangers in Kawe. And from Kansashi informed Kansashi Dynamos were victorious over Green Buffaloes Football Club by a 0-0 in Solwezi to push in the third half of the league. Chambeshi kept their hopes of staying alive up with a 2-0 win over Prison Leopard. Zanaco Football Club will host Power Dynamos tomorrow Sunday at the National Heroes Stadium. And in the game of the week in Eden University League, Nchanga Rangers came from 2 goals down to win 3-2 against Napsa Stars. Sport and Art Minister Elvis NKANDU says the FIFA-funded rehabilitation of stadia infrastructure across the country should not be vandalized by the members of the public. In an interview with Camnet Sports, NKANDU says FIFA, through the Football Association of Zambia, has funded the rehabilitation of 5 stadia at a cost of $1.5 million United States dollars. NKANDU says members of the public should remain committed to safeguarding the infrastructure as they will be used for various sports disciplines.
We are rehabilitating about 5 stadia across the country, funded by FIFA through FAS, but we have also contributed, the Zambian people have contributed the land itself, because that's for the Zambian people. So I don't expect any vandalism towards such infrastructure because there is that contribution. And also we have told the contractor that there is need for them to involve the community, the local people. The local people are part of that project, so they have participated. So I don't expect vandalism. And if we find people vandalizing such infrastructure, then those are enemies of development. and that should not be tolerated.
To end Camnet news, the headlines once again. MASAITI District women call for inclusive development. 2 male children of NAKATINDI found dead in an unclear circumstance. Parliamentary Accounts Committee Chairperson MWAMBAZI asked to recuse himself. And in international news, Malian army says dozens of its soldiers killed in jihadist attacks. And in sports news, NKANDU warns the public from vandalizing the 5 FIFA-funded rehabilitated stadia. When I look at the Camnet verse of the day coming from Joshua 1 verse 8, keep this book of the law always on your lips. Meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you will be prosperous and successful. Thank you for watching the news. My name is Jeffrey Ziambo. Good night.